my pleasure to have Anil give us a talk on Vipassana and also his experience uh, with Goenka ji. He's one of the rare people in this group that has actually met Goenka ji, and that also very long time ago, 45 years ago. And he has conversations with him, and so that will be very exciting to know his personal experiences with Goenka ji. And he's a professor. He was in IIT for 10 years and many more, I think 30 plus years in various places in USA. So overall, he has background both in electrical engineering and very much in yoga. His yoga style is kind of different. He probably doesn't call it yoga. He's like a mystic, where he does practice Kashmir Shaivism and also Vipassana. And so it will be something very unique experience for all of us to hear what he has to say about Vipassana and his analysis of Vipassana. So go ahead, Anil.
Okay, let us begin. First of all, thank you, Shrikantji, for giving me this opportunity to uh, make a presentation to this group. This is the first time I'm making a presentation to this group, Sri Yoga group. And the topic is rather easy, but the description is very complicated. So I need to explain in the beginning right now that this is something like telling somebody how to ride a bike. Now, one has to learn. All of us, when we were kids, we learn to drive the bike by actually sitting on it, and then several times falling down, again getting up, again trying, etc., etc. So the point is that this is something which is very practical and something which needs to be done actually. And if there is a description of what is this all about, then the description becomes very difficult because you cannot just explain to somebody how to ride a bike unless that person himself tries to ride on the bike. So this is the kind of dilemma, this is the kind of situation that I'm finding myself. However, I'm going to attempt to do that. And because Vipassana is something that one has to do it. And there are apparently, it is very simple. There are two parts, and I will come to them. The first part is anapana, that means focusing your attention on breathing. And the second part is vipassana, the actual vipassana, where you focus your attention on the body and move your attention up and down from head to toe on the body. So this is a very simplistic explanation. I mean, there is one might feel what is the big deal here? Well, actually, when you start doing it and you start seeing the results, that is the part that is very difficult. Like just telling somebody that you get on the bike and start riding is very easy to tell. But then the most important part is keeping the balance. And how do you explain somebody how do you keep the balance on the bike? That is a very difficult explanation. So just focusing your mind on your breath is a simple thing, apparently, to explain. And focusing your mind on different parts of your body is also very simple. So what is so big deal in that? That is the question. Well, there is big deal, and we will see how it turns out. So let me now do screen share and start showing my slides. I have 20 slides and I'm going to divide them in three parts. In the part which is coming first, I'll be explaining to my best to my to best of my ability what Vipassana is all about. Then in the second part, I will talk about the conversations that I had with Goenka ji in person, face to face. In those days, the time that I'm talking about is around 1973. So exactly 47 years ago. During that time, I learned it in 1973. And then in those days, there was no center at Igatpuri. Goenka ji used to tell us that he wants to purchase land somewhere in Igatpuri so that he can build a center for Vipassana over there, etc. So I'm really talking about very, very early time, very early days. And in those days, Goenka ji used to be very open. He was approachable. We could always go to him and talk to him. And I utilized that opportunity. And in 1973, 74, 75, 76, I went to him umpteen number of times and had face-to-face conversations with him. And that was quite enjoyable. And whatever he was telling us, telling me and my friends also, that is something that I want to share with you. So that will be the second part of my talk. In the third part of my talk, I'm trying to uh, explain my own investigations on Vipassana because I've been practicing Vipassana for 47 years. That is true. But basically, I'm a technologist and I spent my entire life doing research in technology. So, because of that, I look at this whole process of Vipassana as a kind of psychological technology. I call it cognitive technology. That's a better word. So, because basically this is a technique that has to be implemented, that has to be practiced, and there is something to be done in that. So basically, I call it a technology. And just as I did research in technology, I have been doing research on Vipassana. Now, this is very funny because everybody will say, well, spirituality is adhyatma, and you just do it, right? But the idea, my idea, is that I can, and I have been doing research even on Adhyatma, trying to figure out what is exactly happening in our mind, in our body, when we actually meditate, and trying to do a psychological analysis of the processes that are happening over there. So this is the research part of my investigations, which I did on Vipassana. And what did I find in my 47 years? I've been doing that, practicing Vipassana. That was my meditation. And also at the same time, in parallel, doing research on Vipassana. That is the second part, which I'm going to share all that with you. So now let me click on share screen. Oh, okay, so this shows the title and my name below. Okay, let me click on that and the first slide will show up. Okay, the story begins with Buddhism. And I'm saying here, Buddhism 3000 years ago, Lord Buddha's time in India. Well, I need to put a footnote here. Usually, the standard time of Lord Buddha is supposed to be 500 BC. That date was decided by a majority of Western scholars, and we Indians accepted it. However, apart from my research in technology as a hobby, I have also been doing research in the field of archaeology. That is my hobby, and I've been doing that for the last 20 years. And my archaeological research shows that time of Buddha was not 500 BC, but 1100 BC. So which is around 3000 years ago. So that is what I am mentioning in the first line. Now, the Buddha's essential purpose was enlightenment. He wanted enlightenment, and so he practiced a lot of penance, etc., etc. Enlightenment in Buddhism is achieved of knowledge or wisdom or awakened intellect. Well, he was trying to obtain an experience of the ultimate truth. And obviously, an experience of ultimate truth requires awakened intellect. So that is what he wanted, and that is what he was trying to get. In the process, he developed a methodology, and development of insight into transcendental truth or about the nature of ultimate reality That he found, and that's why we call him a Buddha. Buddha means a person who has realized the ultimate reality. So when he became Buddha, he gave the methodology to humanity, and that is Vipassana. So Vipassana is a method that he developed and he gave it to humanity and he gave it to the whole world. Now, here today, we can use that same thing, and all of us may be interested, some of us might be interested in the awakened intellect, some of us might be trying to find the ultimate truth, but majority of us can use Vipassana as a method, as a psychological therapy as well. In fact, Buddha himself claimed that Vipassana can provide us freedom from sorrow. Sorrow is dukkha. So basically, dukkha mukti is the advantage that we can get out of practicing Vipassana, and that is a claim that Lord Buddha himself has made. Let me click and we get the second slide here. And here I'm talking about, you see, Buddhism is not confined only to India. Buddhism has spread all over the world. So in various countries, wherever Buddhism went and is being practiced, they all have Vipassana. And the original purpose, of course, as I said, was to overcome dukkha, suffering caused by desire. Buddha's explanation is that dukkha comes because we have desired or craving of something and we don't get that, and so we suffer. The word tanha, as what I mentioned here, is in Pali language, which is actually a variant of the Sanskrit word trishna, because we have trishna, you know, of or attachment with something, and that produces tanna, and tanna brings suffering. And the other word that I mentioned here is avidya, which is also used in Buddhist philosophy, which is actually the same word that is used in Vedanta, avidya, and which is ignorance of the true nature of reality, as per the definition given by Vedanta. So that is also a part of, that is also a reason why we suffer. Buddhism developed into three branches. This is history. Hinayana Buddhism, Mahayana Buddhism, Vajrayana Buddhism, three parts. And different places where Vipassana is being practiced. We have in India today, what I learned from Goenka Guruji is the method a la Goenka Guruji, which is foundational or basic Vipassana. That's what he taught us. But there is Vipassana in Japan, and I have looked at that. There is Vipassana in other Far East countries like Vietnam, Cambodia, etc., etc. There is Vipassana in Sri Lanka. These places have adopted Vipassana in the Mahayana Buddhism tradition. So there are minor differences between Goenka Guruji's Vipassana and the Vipassana that is practiced in these countries. There is also Vipassana in Tibet, and it's quite a bit, it's quite detailed. And there is in Nepal and Bhutan as well as Sikkim, but Sikkim is more prominent. And this kind of Vipassana is based on the Vajrayana part of Buddhism, and it leans more towards Tantra Vidya. Let me go to the next slide. The basic question is, what is Vipassana per se? Now, Vipassana actually consists of two principles. One is bhavana and the other one is samatha. And I'll just explain the meaning of the word samatha. See, in our usual language, samatha means equality. That's not the meaning here. Let us talk about bhavana first. Bhavana deals with, it is a subjective mental and physical process. So basically, mental, it has to do with the mind. Physical, it has to do with the body. Now, Vipassana Bhavana is development of insight into the processes of mental and physical processes that occur in the mind, the processes that happen in the body. And then there are these various parts. Chitta Vipassana. Chitta deals with memory. So there is Chitta Bhavana, deals with memory and consciousness. There is Kaya Bhavana. Kaya means body. It deals with physical sensations that arise in our body. Metta Bhavana. Metta is the Pali variant of Mitra or Maitri. So basically it is Maitri Bhavana. In Pali it is Metta Bhavana. And it deals with benevolence and good wishes. It's like making a friendship and expressing good wishes towards a friend. That is Metta. Then the next one is Panna Bhavana. Now Panna is a Pali language variant of the Sanskrit word Prajna. Prajna means knowledge, wisdom, etc. So Panna Bhavana deals with understanding, knowledge, etc. And then finally there is Samadhi Bhavana, and it deals with concentration and focused attention. As I mentioned, samatha, it doesn't mean equality here. Samatha actually is a Pali variant of the Sanskrit word shamata. And sham means peace. In fact, the name of Lord Shiva, Shankar, the word derives from sham. Sham karoti iti Shankara. That means God who brings peace is Shankara. That is the definition of the word Shankara. So sham means peace. And that is the Sanskrit word. And the Pali variant of Sanskrit shamata is samatha. And so samatha here is development of tranquility of the mind or obtaining mind calmness. So this is basically the crux of what Vipassana is. However, it is a process. So this is the theory, as you can say, of Vipassana. Let me click here and let us see further how the word came up. In Sanskrit, the Sanskrit word is Vipassana. Vipassana includes Pasya. Pasya means to see, to observe. And the prefix attached to Pasya it means it is an observation of a special kind. And what does it mean? It means you have to separate yourself from the object that you are observing. So you have to observe with total detachment. Like you are just standing by the side and observing something, like a witness. And you have to keep the simple awareness in observing like a witness. And this is usually expressed in Sanskrit as Sakshi Bhava. You have to become a Sakshi. So the point is, we will see later that you have to observe breath, you have to observe the sensations within the body, and you don't have to assume, oh, I'm breathing, this is my breath. No. Or I'm doing this Vipassana, so I'm looking at my own body. No, there is no I that should come up. You have to do the process like a witness, like a passerby. You just have to witness whatever process that is happening. Now, the Vipassana as a process consists of two parts. The first part is Anapana. And that means focusing our attention on breathing. Ana is inhalation, apana is exhalation. So air coming into the nose and going to the lungs. Apana means going out, air going in, air going out. This is exactly, if you know, there was a movie and Karate Kid. And if you remember, there was, wax in, wax out. Actually, that is borrowed from Buddhist Vipassana. Wax in, wax out. So you focus your attention on the breathing process and just observe that while breathing, air is going into the nose, air is getting out of the nose. So when I learned this, I kind of used to imagine that I'm like a policeman. A little policeman standing in front of my own nose, right in front of my two nostrils. It's just observing, excuse me, the air going in and the air going out. So this is the part one, which is Anapana. Part two is the actual Vipassana. And that involves observing, meaning witnessing, sensation by moving our attention, by being aware of the sensations within the body, step by step, by moving our attention from head to toe, from toe to head, from head to toe, from toe to head. Now let me say a philosophical word about, excuse me, the foundation, the philosophical foundation. There are many suttas in Buddhist philosophy, and the most important one that is to be used here is Mahasatipatthana Sutta. Mahasatipatthana Sutta. Now, Sati, the word Sati derives from the Sanskrit word Satya. Sati is Pali from Satya. And Patthana deals with Patha in Sanskrit, the way, or in English, path. A path towards the spiritual truth is Patthana. So Satipatthana and Anapanasati. Anapanasati, Anapana I just explained. These are the two important words in Vipassana. And they are related to a process that summarizes the Buddhist path to awakening, leading to the spiritual truth. So the result that is expected here is that we are awakened so that we can experience the spiritual truth, the ultimate truth. That is the goal. And to achieve this goal, that is the sati, and that is the meaning of Satipatthana Sutta. Sutta derives from the Sanskrit word sutra. Sutra is Sanskrit, sutta is Pali. So it means a principle or a formula. Now, I'm just explaining it and giving the English words for the Sanskrit words or the Pali words, but Goenka ji never did that. He always explained in detailed explanations by paraphrasing, and he used to give a lot of examples, and he used to tell stories in order to explain the concepts involved there. So that was his way of explaining the whole thing to us. My initiation, as I said, happened in 1973. In those days, I used to teach in IIT Bombay in Mumbai, and that is where I picked it up. We had a 10-day camp, or what we used to call Shibir, 10-day Shibir of Vipassana. We held it in one of the IIT hostels in the summer vacation of 1973 in the month of June. And that's the time when I sat right in front of Goenka ji and learned Vipassana. And I have been keeping up with it. So I've been practicing Vipassana for the last 47 years. Then, having done Vipassana for 5 years intensely, then I got into Kashmir Shaivism. I have added a couple of notes here, 2 lines. I'm not a yogi. I like to call myself a mystic. I practice mysticism a la Kashmir Shaivism. Kashmir Shaivism comes under Tantric or Tantra Vidya. And I usually don't like to call Vipassana as meditation at all, because you see, meditation is a very general kind of word. It includes many, many things. But Vipassana is not like that. Vipassana is very specific, and it has a very precise, very exactness is there and it is very well defined. So I don't like to use the wording Vipassana meditation. I say, no, no, it's not meditation. It is Vipassana, period. So, so that's how I look at it. Shaktipat and Kundalini Jagruti, I have gone through all that, but they are parts of Kashmir Shaivism. But that is a totally different subject. And some other day, we could have uh, a similar Zoom meeting on what is Kashmir Shaivism, what is Shaktipat, what is Kundalini Jagruti, etc., etc. But that's a totally different subject. I just made a mention here in order to differentiate myself from these other things. Uh, and I already mentioned that I also do research investigation on Vipassana. On the side, I have been for last almost 15 years or so, especially after I took early retirement at the age of 60. Today I'm 73. So last 13 years, or definitely, and even before that, I started studying neuroscience because you see, when I went into the roots of Vipassana and doing research, I found that its roots are deeply embedded into Vedas, which is very surprising. People usually assume that Vedas are Hindu and Vipassana is Buddhist. So this is Hinduism against Buddhism, etc. All that is nonsense. Actually, my research shows that there is no difference between Hinduism and Buddhism, and the roots of Vipassana are deeply embedded into Vedas. They are also deeply embedded into Tantra Vidya. And when it comes to Tantra Vidya, we have to get into neuroscience because all Tantra Vidya, including Vipassana, including Shaktipata, including Kundalini Jagrati, including all that, ultimately is to be investigated by looking through the eyes of neuroscience. Oh, I went one. How do I go back? It How do I go back? I lost one slide. Anyway, forget about that. So the emphasis is on
try
process.
back arrow.
Back arrow. Oh, okay. Yeah. So now I want to get into the second part, which is about the conversations that I had with Goenka ji. And in those days, Goenka ji was very approachable. Those were the very early days. He used to have 10-day camps at different places. And one of the places, we invited him to IIT, to Mumbai. But then he used to have 10-day camps at many other places too. There was no Igatpuri center or anything like that. Goenka ji was very approachable and we could converse with him very easily. So these were the advantages. We used to ask him many questions. Why are we doing Anapana? What is the purpose, etc., etc. And he used to patiently answer all of our questions. Then in the 10-day camp, throughout the 10 days, we were supposed to observe complete silence. That was not easy, but we all went through it. And we used to ask him, why are we supposed to observe silence? Complete mauna has to be observed. Well, he used to say, don't ask too many questions, just do it. That was his standard answer. But then he also tried to explain that liberation can be gained only by practice and never by mere discussion. That is a very important principle that he taught us. And he also used to say, essentially, Vipassana meditation is a process of retraining the mind. So it's training the mind is the essence of Vipassana. So the emphasis is on practice and not on theory. What do we do in that practice? As a process, there are some necessary conditions which are followed. First of all, when I'm doing Vipassana, I just sit still in a comfortable position. Then I try to get away from all my sensory perception, paying no attention to any sensory perception. This is very important and it's not easy to do, but with a little practice, one can do that. Then keeping pure awareness with total equanimity. So just being aware, as I explained, like a witness, and not getting involved into the breathing process or not getting involved with whatever kind of sensations that are coming up, arising within the body. Simply mentally observing the sensations within the body, including the coming and passing. So as we are focusing our attention on the body, the sensations arise, they stay for some time, and they die out. Again, some other sensation will come up, it will arise, it will stay for some time, it will die out. And like that, just as thoughts keep coming into our mind, one thought, second thought, third thought, there is a train of thoughts. Um, in the same way, sensations keep coming into the body, one after another, and we simply have to observe them with equanimity. Equanimity means with Sakshiva, as a witness. And this whole process, he first used to explain to us, and then he used to make us do all that. Well, believe it or not, right from morning until evening, this is all that we were supposed to be doing. Just sitting there and doing Vipassana, nothing else, for 10 days at a stretch. Well, what are the kind of sensations that we used to feel? In the beginning, the sensations keep coming and they are of a very gross nature. You might just feel that your feet are getting hot, or you might get a itchy, scratchy sensation somewhere on the back, etc., etc. However, as we practice with focused attention, what happens is the intensity of the sensations starts getting smaller and smaller. They are less intense, and finally we start feeling that they are not sensations, they are kind of little vibrations in different parts of the body. So initially the vibrations are like shudder in the body part, but then with practice, their intensity goes on reducing, and vibrations then become minute vibrations, then even more minute vibrations. Sometimes we lose the vibrations, we don't feel anything. And Goenka ji used to tell us, don't worry, keep observing. Even if there is no vibration, that's a fact. Observe the fact. So observe that there is no sensation. All right. But that situation doesn't last forever. Soon, new sensations start coming up. So their intensity goes on reducing, and finally we reach a stage where they are become extremely minute, super minute. I call them super minute. That's not a word that Goenka ji used, but he just used to explain to us that the vibrations will go smaller and smaller. But I like to call them minute or super minute or even super minute, hyper minute vibrations within the body. And you actually feel those. See, when you do this practice for 10 days, you start feeling them. I mean, I started feeling them. And why are they? That is a big question, which I'm going to answer later on. So let me go to the next slide. What is the dictum? The dictum is that these sensations that you experience within the body is the reality of yourself. And he used to say, be aware of the reality, observe the reality from moment to moment, at every moment. This is a statement that he said literally 100 times during those 10 days. And that is his dictum. On a personal note, this statement, which I heard directly from the mouth of Goenka Guruji got embedded into my consciousness so much. And I still remember, even after 47 years, I feel as if, oh, he just now said something and I heard it, even just a minute ago. And that is what it is. That enabled me to practice Vipassana every moment. And I kept doing it for last 47 years. So that's what it is, folks. Okay, the essential reality of our mind-body complex. What happens is when we do this constantly, right from morning to evening, for 10 days, the experience is that our subconscious mind starts opening up. And I will explain to you what Goenka told us about that. The super minute vibrations constitute the reality of our cells. Like we all take it for granted. I have a mind. Yes, I have a body. Okay. But what is the essential nature of my mind? What is the essential nature of my body? We never ask that question to ourselves. Now, here, while performing Vipassana, that is exactly the question that we are asking. What am I? Well, I am nothing but a bunch of sensations. I am nothing but a bunch of thoughts which are arising in my mind, and I am nothing but a bunch of sensations that are arising within my mind, within my body. So these sensations are direct result of the thoughts in the mind, and they are the essence of our own mind-body complex. You see, in spirituality, people have been talking about self. We have in spirituality, we are in search of self. So the word self is so commonly used that it has almost lost our meaning. Self, what is self? When we are searching for self, what are we exactly searching for? Well, Vipassana showed me the way that this is the self. What am I? I am nothing but the sensations in my body. That's what I am. So their coming and passing of this sensation is a manifestation of our moment by moment existence. And they indicate our existence is ephemeral. You see, no sensation remains constant all the time. One sensation comes, stays for a while, dies out. Another sensation comes up, stays for a while, dies out. So sensations keep coming and going, coming and going. The point is that everything in our existence is temporary, momentary. This is the realization that one obtains when one practices Vipassana, that our existence itself is temporary, momentary, from one moment to another moment as we go on observing. Now, this is my own analysis. You see, I have studied enough Vedanta. I have read all the Upanishads, all the Vedas, and everything. And Adya Shankaracharya has said, Sarvam Kshanikam Kshanikam, Sarvam Dukkham Dukkham. Adya Shankaracharya has philosophy which is called Mayavad, and he says, Brahmam Satyam Jagan Mithya, that all the world is Mithya, means false, and it is only the Brahman which is true. That's what Adya Shankaracharya told us. And well, you see, when we are observing the sensations within our body, moment by moment, every moment, and we are observing that the sensations are coming, staying for a moment, and then vanishing, staying for a moment, and vanishing. This is where I find that Vedanta and Buddhism meet. They are not different. They are talking about the same reality. So during the practice of Vipassana, we actually observe the momentarity of the superminute minute vibrations within the body. Now, in Buddhist philosophy, often there is a word, Vedana, that is used because When the sensations become super minute, super minute, hyper minute, then we realize that they actually consist of a little bit of a pain, little bit of a pain. And that is called Vedana in Buddhist philosophy. At the extremely tiny level, that is minute pain that we observe, that we experience. And that is again, see, sarvam dukkham dukkham, sarvam kshanikam kshanikam, sarvam dukkham, that is Vedanta. And in Vipassana, another name that is often used is Vedananupassana, because these tiny, extremely tiny level of minute sensations, they appear like pain. We don't feel the pain that much, but we know that because the pain is, see, the sensation is minute. And so the pain associated is also minute. And we are not aware of it at that moment. But when we go deep into Vipassana, then our observation becomes finer and finer and finer. Then we start realizing that these minute sensations are actually sensations of pain. So this is where, in my view, Vedanta and Buddhism come together. So this is my philosophy. That reality does not change, whichever way we look at it. It always remains the same, irrespective of our observation. Whether we look in the perspective of Vedanta, which is Hindu, which comes from Vedas, or whether we look in the perspective of Buddhism, a la Vipassana. The point is that whichever way we look, it is reality. And understanding of reality is the whole purpose of whether you accept Vedanta or whether you accept Vipassana or Buddhism. So continuing with the conversation with Goenka ji, we used to ask, what is the source of these super minute vibrations? Why do we perceive within the body these minute vibrations while doing Vipassana? Well, please remember, for 10 days, we have not talked to anybody. We are in a state of total silence. And our thoughts in our mind, see, when on the first day, we started observing silence, many thoughts used to come into mind. Second day, the train of thoughts gets slower. Third day, the train of thoughts still gets slower. So the thinking processes within the mind also have become sufficiently slowed down. We are in a state of total silence. In that situation, then, as Goenka ji used to explain, that our subconscious mind opens up. Because most of the conscious activities are stopped. We are not talking to anybody. We are not doing any action. We are just sitting there down and observing the sensations in our body. So there is no, the body is not active that much. The mind is also not active. And in that state, our subconscious memories start coming up. And he used to say our lifespan is from birth to death. But when we are born, we bring along subconscious memories from our previous incarnations. Whatever we have done, whatever are our memories from the past lives, they are still with us and they start coming up in that situation. They are the source of these super minute vibrations, and we need to perceive the reality of these. Now, let me just mention here, I will come to that in further slides, that where is this subconscious mind, and I am going to link it up with neuroscience later on. But here, let us note that these super minute vibrations are our essential reality. They are our real essence. The bunch of super minute vibrations is what we are. Okay, This is the advice Goenka ji used to give us. He used to advise kshana kshana jage, kana kana jage, anga anga jage, pratikshana. He used to say that we have to practice this observation of Vipassana, observing the sensations within the body, moment by moment, every moment. Every moment, new sensations are coming up. Every moment, they are dying out, and the next moment, another sensation is coming up, etc., etc. So, kshana kshana jage, kana kana jage. Kana kana means let every small particle in the body be awake, be alive, be observable at every moment. This is the principle that he advised, that he used to. And then the big question is, what are these particles? Every part of my body, every particle of my body is having sensation. What are these particles? Well, this is where my investigation begins. In, in my research on Vipassana, I have found that these are nothing but the neuronic pulses. You see, our body consists of a huge network of neurons, which we call the nervous system. And these neurons conduct electronic signals. These electronic signals are passed from one neuron to other neuron. And that is how the entire nervous system within our body actually operates. And my investigation indicates that these are the sensations within kana kana, within each particle, within our body that we feel, that we experience while doing vipassana are nothing but neuronic signals. Now, I spent 40 years of my life as a professor of electrical engineering, electronics, computer hardware, computer software, and all that. And my observation is that these electronic signals, which are passed from one neuron to another neuron within the nervous system of our own body, are exactly the same kind of signals that we see on instruments like oscilloscopes in the electronics lab. You see, and in fact, our brain waves are also of the same, consisting of the same kind of electronic signals that we see in electroencephalograms, and also even the same electronic signals are there in our heart as the heart pumps, the heart muscle, and that's what is picked up in our EKG, electrocardiogram. So basically, the entire nervous system in our body is a gigantic, huge electronic system. And these signals are passed from one neuron to other neuron. And some of them are just electronic signals, and most of them are electrochemical signals. You see, ions, ionic currents of calcium, potassium, sodium, etc., they are passed, they cross the cell walls of these neuron cells, and the signal, the information signals are passed by means of these electrochemical flows of ions. So, a network of nerve cells and fibers which transmit nerve impulses between parts of the body, they are all neurotransmitters, and they contain information signals, and they are electronic and electrochemical, and nerve impulses, the action potentials and their sequences, ion migrations and their channels are there. And I've been, for last about 12, 13, 14 years, I've been doing detailed study of neuroscience. Even though my background is engineering, I find that the fundamentals, foundations of neuroscience are electronics. So huge network of billions of neuronic circuits are there within our body, and this is all electronics. That's what I find. There are various kinds of neurons. There are motor neurons, there are sensor neurons, then these words, afferent with sensor neurons, efferent with motor neurons, these words are commonly used in neuroscience. And then there are transfer connections which transfer information in the form of signals from neuron to neuron. And then there are clusters of neurons. So there are transfer connections between one cluster of neurons to another cluster of neurons. And there are millions and millions of clusters. There are billions of neurons and millions of clusters of these neurons within our body. And then there are synapses. Synapses means joints. So there is one kind of synapses are between individual motor neurons, and there are also synapses between motor neurons and muscles. And then there are also synapses between sensor neurons and other neurons. Now here, I have to say something. This is my investigation. This is my research, and this is where I found the answer. See, why do you feel the super minute vibrations? Vibrations are produced by muscles. And from where is the information of these vibrations coming to the muscles? Well, the information is arising out of our subconscious mind, which is passed on by means of neuronic signals to the sensor neurons. From the sensor neurons, it is transferred to motor neurons. The motor neurons transfer the information to muscles, and the muscles produce these minute vibrations. So this is what I found in my investigations, in my research on Vipassana. See, all our thoughts, feelings, emotions, problems, and all the vicissitudes of life, they all produce gross sensations within our body. You see, normally we don't experience this, but we know when we get angry, the body vibrates. We know that, but that is at an extremely gross level. When you are doing Vipassana from morning to evening for 10 days, and you're not thinking of anything, you're not talking to anybody, you're just sitting down and see, in that situation, then we start realizing that every thought that arises in our mind actually gets reflected into the body in the form of a sensation by the process which I just explained to you. I gave a neuroscientific explanation of the process of that happens in Vipassana, that every thought, every emotion in our mind gets ultimately comes from the subconscious memory. From the subconscious level, it comes to the conscious level. When it comes to the conscious level, it is passed on to the sensory neurons. From sensory neurons, then it gets transferred to motor neurons. And the motor neurons then transfer it to muscles, and they manifest in the form of these super minute vibrations in the body. This is the entire neuroscientific explanation that I found in my research on Vipassana. So with long and further practice, believe me, all this requires much, much detailed and deeper level of investigation, which I have actually done. And this is what I find. Our subconscious mind is a huge storehouse of past memories. And the subconscious mind actually starts opening up. See, one of the reasons why we have to observe complete mauna, total silence, is because we don't want any external inputs into our subconscious. You see, our own subconscious mind is opening up and we are dealing with it. We don't want any external noise inputs coming into our subconscious. That is why we are not supposed to talk to anybody. That is why we have to observe complete silence. So no external inputs. It's all internal inputs coming out. So the subconscious mind opens up, but being unconscious, we don't know the contents of those memories. The contents are unknown. However, they are extremely subtle. They are extremely subtle and they appear as super minute vibrations within the body. This is what I found in my 47 years of practice, as well as the same amount of time of my research on to Vipassana. What is Vipassana? What is exactly happening when we do Vipassana? This is my answer. So the most important part is that a detached observation of this process is very important. The moment we emotionally try to attach ourselves to these vibrations, then we are developing new memories and we are putting them into our subconscious mind. We are not supposed to do that. We just become observers. We let things come out, stay there, appear and manifest as vibrations in the body, and we only witness them and we let them pass. What is happening here? This is, to my mind, a process of cleaning up our own subconscious mind, piece by piece, layer by layer. Let every layer come out from our subconscious. Let it appear, manifest itself as vibration, super minute vibration in the body, and let it die out, let it pass. This is a process of cleaning up of our own subconscious. And this, to my mind, is a research paradigm for research in neuroscience. What is the process that actually happens within our mind-body complex when we perform Vipassana? Well, the answer, in my view, can be found only in neuroscience. And so this is where I stop. Thank you for this opportunity of telling you all the story that I found in my 47 years of experience of Vipassana. So I stop here saying thanks to all of you.
Thank you very much, Anil. That was just enlightening, very interesting, and deep talk.